Howdy, welcome. How y'all doing? Good. My name's Ben, and this is Maren. We're going to be talking to you today in the very first, the inaugural eye opener. So welcome to the first time we're ever going to be doing this. Today we're going to be talking about 27 startups. Actually, we need to go one slide back. I don't want to get messed up. I have to have my order, and then if I get us away from it, then I'm going to mess up. I know, I'm becoming very German by the day, and that's a poignant thing to say, because what we're going to talk about today is how it is to bring a lot of people together in one place who have various backgrounds. Before we do that, I'd like to tell everybody of my colleagues who's using Blue Jeans right now, I'm going to post a link in just a second. We're going to watch a video in just a moment, and that's what you'll need to do to watch the video, is just follow that link. Before we get any farther, I can probably tell you a bit about myself and let Maren tell you a bit about herself. As you know, my name's Ben. I've been working here at eyeo for 4 years as the head of communications and operations. And I am here tonight to talk to you, not as an expert on this topic that we have in Maren. I'm here actually because I have worked and lived between Germany and America for all of my career. For the last 10 to 15 years, I've been doing that. And I think it's given me, hopefully, a special perspective on that. So I'll be sharing you some anecdotal evidence of my time in Kentucky, my time here. And Maren gets to do all the good stuff, all the solutions. So let me switch to you now, if you'd like to introduce yourself.
Okay, thanks. So hello, everyone. Hello, everyone over Blue Jeans. So happy that you're here tonight. Thank you. I'm Maren, as Ben already said. I joined eyeo 3 years ago. I built up the HR department from scratch. So I'm the people operations manager here. And I'm dealing on a daily basis with cultural differences. So this is why I might be an expert, kind of. And really happy to give you some insights tonight.
So, what's an eye opener? Well, this is the first one, as you know, 27 nations that we crammed into this one company. But I wanted to give a bit of an introduction since this is the first one. So at its very heart, it's just talks by eyeo employees. We're going to be talking, and we are going to cover a gamut of work-related issues, but also issues that aren't directly related to work. So we won't be always talking about projects we'll be doing. And sometimes it may not relate to work at all. Sometimes it may just be a special interest or expertise area of the person who's presenting. So that could be anything from HR in the work environment, something we're covering tonight, to contract law and the legal system, to social media marketing, to how to solder together a circuit board. We really plan to make it a broad area. And at the end of the day, we hope to enlighten you and open the doors to our company. So we want to, tell you a little about something we know, hopefully, and then we want to show you what it's like to work. The structure of what you're going to see tonight will be pretty simple. Maren is going to, after this introduction, Maren is going to tell you about where you fit into your working culture and how nationality and culture and all that comes into play. It's essentially just setting the table for the next bit. The second part, I'm going to bring in some examples by telling you a story about a German who is going to move to Kentucky, the place where I actually am from, and hopefully illustrate a little bit of this about how we can learn from our cultural differences. And then at the end, Maren is going to do again the difficult stuff and tell you why and how we're dealing with those very problems. But first, let me hand it again to you, Maren, and let you tell us why it's important to you and how we're doing that here at eyeo.
Right, happy to do so. So there are actually 3 reasons why I am so eager to talk about this topic. First of all, I'm working at eyeo, so an international company. When I joined 3 years ago, we were around 20 people, and we grew since then up to nearly 90 employees today. And we grew from 6 to 27 nationalities. And what might be interesting as well, we have English as a company language, but only 19 out of our 88 employees today having English as their native language. So this is also one cultural difference we have to overcome every day. So this is why the first reason why I'm so eager to talk about it. The second is I started my work career in tourism, so I dealt with many different cultures. I studied abroad, so in Spain, and you might think, well, can't be that different. Well, I encountered some cultural differences there as well. And yeah, this is why I want to share my experience with you. The third reason is actually my experience led to me writing my thesis about intercultural work groups or project groups, and why it can be difficult to have different cultures working on one project, working on one product, and what can go wrong and how you can actually support making it right. So this gets me to why do we do it? So we want to attract and hire the best talent. It's as easy as that. We don't care about where we find this talent, where they live, where they want to live, if they travel, as long as they have a good internet connection, we're fine. Second thing, we have an international product used by millions of people all over the world. So we need unique perspectives on it from different cultures, different nationalities, because this product is used all over the world. So this is why we're actually doing it.
Cool.
Okay, so we would like, as Ben already mentioned, show you a short video of how not to deal with cultural differences.
To corporate about it, they kind of beat me to the punch. Dumb bastards.
At Diversity Today, our philosophy is about honesty and positive expectations. We believe that 99% of the problems in the workplace arise simply out of ignorance.
You know what? This is a color-free zone here. Stanley, I don't look at you as another race.
See, this is what I'm talking about. We don't have to pretend that we're colorblind.
Exactly.
That's fighting ignorance with more ignorance.
Tolerance.
No, with more ignorance. Right, exactly.
Okay, can we steer away from gay people? I'm sorry, it's an orientation, it's not a race. Plus, a lot of other races are also intolerant of gays, so... paradox.
Well, we only have an hour.
Okay,
Well,
why don't we
good.
just
It'll
defer?
save time.
Why don't we just defer
No
to
gays.
Mr.
Mr. Brown.
All right. Okay, first test. I will not call you that.
Well, it's my name. It's not a test. Okay?
So I think this is a good example and a good warm-up for how not to do it. So let me give you some details. First, a little bit of not really scientific, but a little bit of definition, so you know what I actually talk about, and then go on. So what I encounter very often talking about culture is that many people actually equate nationality and culture. Oh, okay. So let me give you a short definition of how I perceive culture, actually. Culture is constructed. It's learned behavior. It's a knowledge shared by a large group of people. This large group of people can be a nation, sure. Talking about nationality, I don't think we have to actually give a definition about this. But it can be also a region. It can be a company. This is why we're here tonight, talking about our company culture, actually. So these are accepted behaviors, values, beliefs you actually don't have to think about because you just learned it somehow while you grew up. So there are different layers of culture. So as I said, national level, there can be the regional level. Think about Bavaria and the northern part of Germany, to just give one example. I hope I'm not offending anyone, but I think there is a clear difference. So thinking about gender, male and female culture, think about generations, Generation Z and Y. As a recruiter, I'm confronted very often with Generation Z and Generation Y and what they want actually and what their culture is. There's a company level, as I said. There can be also a marriage level. I think this is something Ben.
Yeah, I only spent a lot of time in Germany, but I'm married to a German. I felt I needed some discipline in my life. I was right. Yeah. I've been homeless before.
I wouldn't say it that hard. And let me give you one short example from my studies abroad. So when we had to hand in an essay, actually, it was more that we were in a group with Spanish, an American girl and me, Spanish girls and the two of us. And in the end, they actually thought, oh, come on, they're Erasmus students. They want to party and enjoy some tappers, but they don't really want to study. So they wrote the whole abstract for us and said, like, okay, you just have to read it. And we were actually spending a lot of time trying to write something in Spanish about human resources. And, well, this was an awkward situation, but it was just different expectations of what we want and who we are, actually. So a really well-known approach, it's getting faster, very well. A very well-known approach for explaining cultural differences are cultural dimensions. So who of you have heard about it. Okay, Ben, he knows my talk already. So. There has been a lot of research about cultural dimensions. There are many of them, and there are at least like 3 scientists that did a lot about cultural dimensions. So these dimensions represent preferences for one state of affairs above another. So that means it's not black and white, but it's always a scale. And very important is it's set on a national level, not on an individual level. So let's put it that way. Talking about stereotypes, not every German is structured. Even the national level would say it's more structured approach. So I think I can say that thinking about myself. So these preferences are shown in rituals, symbols, behaviors, as I said before. So I would like to give you 2 examples of cultural dimensions, and we get back to them during the talk. So one of it is high and low context cultures. What does that mean? High context means it's not only about what is said, but how is it said. It's indirect communication. It's sometimes hard to get what people actually want to tell you. So it's sometimes difficult for people coming from a low context culture. What is more direct communication? It's like, in Germany we say unverblümt. It's very clear, and if you put those people together in a meeting, well, for others it can be frustrating, for the other side it could be offensive. So always keep that in mind. We get back to that later. The other dimension I want to talk about is the need for space. I don't know if you've ever experienced a situation where a person approached you and you felt like somehow uncomfortable or threatened because they came too close. Anyone?
Like if I were to do this right now.
Yeah, this would feel a little.
Yeah.
I would have the urge like to somehow leave.
Or just
So this is happening also. It's a small thing, but if you actually invade a personal space, this can actually lead to a bad start when it comes to business relationships or thinking about candidates and interviews. So you might have recognized already it's way more complex than just saying, well, it's just different cultures. So we all have a layered identity. No one of us is monocultural. We all have our national, regional culture, family culture, company cultures we were part of or we are still part of. So these are all these values and behaviors we learned over time. They determine who we are and how we actually see, evaluate, and react to different situations. But there's no wrong or right about it. We might feel like meeting people where we can easily deal with, where we say like after 5 minutes, like, well, yeah, let's go out for a beer, let's have a drink. It's awesome talking to you. But there can be also people where you think like it's not clicking. But that doesn't mean that they're wrong or their behaviors is wrong. It's just another culture you have to deal with. So I always like the sentence, we all carry our cultural baggage behind us. So it determines who we are. So let me tell you a little bit more about my daily encounters with intercultural situations as an HR person. So it starts with CV screening. So there are different ways of applying. If I apply for a job, I would write a cover letter. I will also attach a CV with a picture, telling my address, telling my age, maybe also my marital status. I don't know. In other countries, this is absolutely not happening. You get a CV, maybe 1 or 2 pages, and that's it. No cover letter, no picture, no age. Maybe not even the state where someone is living or the country someone is living in. Just to actually get rid of bias. But for you, used maybe to a different way of applying could be like, well, no, this candidate is not interested. He or she didn't write a cover letter. So you always have to question your own culture and your own values when it comes to working in an international environment. Coming from CV screening to interviews, there are no-go questions everywhere, but there are different no-go questions for different cultures. So always train your hiring managers well when it comes to that, and also question yourself. I mean, Joanna can tell a bit about it, doing way more interviews than I do. So yeah, always be careful. And how do we do it to get rid of a lot of bias in the interview process? We involve as many different cultures as we can. We involve HR, we involve the department, we involve management, we involve male and female interviewers, and also if we can from different nationalities to make sure we're not biased when interviewing. thinking about our newbies. You hired a candidate, and they're coming to Cologne. That's how our newbies start. They come here for onboarding. How to welcome them? Hug them? Do we just shake hands? Do we just say hi? There can be differences. Always wait a second and question like, okay, what might be the right approach? Maybe a handshake is enough for the beginning. In the end, if you think like, okay, when they leave after onboarding, if they work remotely, hugging is always fine. And then, yeah, we're coming to feedback talks, getting back to high context and low context, the cultural dimensions I shortly introduced. Thinking about giving feedback to someone who's from a low context culture, who's really expecting like direct feedback, like tell me what's wrong, tell me what I do good, tell me what do I maybe wrong or could I improve. And then there's someone from a high context culture, like trying to say like in many words like, well, yeah, that was okay. No, it was good actually. So this can be really frustrating because the other person wants to know like, come on, tell me your feedback. So always keep that in mind if you think this is an awkward situation. So this can be the reason why it's happening. So as Ben said, to give you some more examples, some really personal examples, he prepared a little story for you.
So, for a story. Hear a story? So, yeah. I'm going to tell you a story about a guy named HansDieter. HansDieter is from this area. We'll say he's from North Rhine-Westphalia. And we'll even say he's from the Mosel. And HansDieter applied for a job in Kentucky, where I'm from, and he got that job. And so what I'm going to go through are a couple situations that may have happened, that probably would have happened, if these two cultures are coming into contact. So before I do that, I want to tell you, a little bit about me and why that works. And basically, it's because not only have I worked between these two cultures for a while, but I've worked in the language actually in the other country. For instance, I worked at the German embassy in Washington. So I was working in German in a city of Washington. And not only was that a different language and a different culture wrapped up in the American culture, but it was also a different environment. Look at me now. You think I came to work like this then? No. Wear suit and tie every day. And let me tell you, in the sweltering heat of the swamp of Washington, D.C., a black or a gray suit is torture. It's awful. And so, yeah, it was a very, very different atmosphere. So what we're going to do today is play with the idea that HansDieter not only comes from the Mosel and a different culture, but he comes from a fairly conservative background. Let's say HansDieter worked at a bank. That was his last job. And so he wears a suit and tie every day to work. In Germany, we usually, unless we're working at a company like ours, we usually don't refer to each other by our first names. That would be highly weird for me as an American. It would be highly weird for me even if I were wearing a suit to refer to someone as Mr. or Miss. And so what we're going to do is explore the cultural differences between these two places and present this example. Now, HansDieter is going to be working at a bourbon company. My state is famous for only a few things, and the best of those is bourbon. He's going to be working for a woman, and we'll say her name is Loretta. Loretta, coming from where I come from, is certainly a very high context person. In Kentucky, we don't always say what we mean. A lot of times that's hidden between a lot of layers of subtlety. My German wife, when she visits Kentucky, and my parents don't tell her what they mean when they're saying something, she gets upset. She thinks that's impolite. This actually does happen quite a bit between these two types of cultures. And we're going to explore how that happens, but also how sometimes the assumptions we have aren't always the right ones. In fact, we'll see that sometimes Kentucky, as the seemingly more laid-back place, is actually a little more stiff for HansDieter, who comes from a very formal background. So without further ado, we'll get into our first example, and it's the first thing that HansDieter is going to do when he goes into the job the first day. He probably had the interview over Skype or something, but he gets off the plane, has his first day at work, and he goes in and he meets Loretta. So they've got to greet one another, right? That's the first thing that you do. Well, how do you do that? Well, let's just say that HansDieter is really, really traditional, and he wants to do the whole cheek kissing. You know, the thing where you do this and if that looked awkward when I just demonstrated that, it's because I can't do that. And it's incredibly awkward for me. I have no freaking idea what I'm supposed to do when someone goes in for a cheek kiss. Do you kiss once? Do you actually touch the cheek with the kiss? Or do you like blow it up in the air like you're giving one to God? I have no idea what to do, and I always feel awkward. So let's say in this situation, his boss, Loretta, did feel awkward. And she was like, whoa, Tiger, hold up a little bit. But she's cool. And she's like, oh, I realize I don't get that. So now what I want to do is I want to go in again. And she's like, oh, HansDieter, it's cool. I don't know how to cheek kiss, so just give me a hug. And then HansDieter's like, hold up there, Missy. I only hug people I know. I only hug people like I'm very close to. So that's a little weird for him. And they both kind of look at each other, and then they're just like, all right, let's just end this with a good old-fashioned handshake. You know, awkwardness out the window. But let's say HansDieter is a big old boy. And he goes in for a handshake, and she is a very petite woman. And she's wearing a lot of rings on her hand, and he just crushes it. That's going to hurt her hand quite a bit. That's not going to be very comfortable. And so, again, they created this other layer of awkwardness. And we haven't even mentioned the fact that, you know, these are just two cultures. What if you come from, say, Japan, where you bow when you meet someone, or other cultures where you don't touch at all? I mean, there are quite a few differences, of course, when you just do something so simple as saying hello. Beyond that, the first lunch. Easy, right? Well, it should be easy. But it's not. Not in this situation, because I'm making everything hard. So HansDieter, he's there the whole week, right? He eats Monday through Thursday. Lunch is great. It's really laid back. He's wearing jeans to work. He bought some new jeans, you know. He bought some Levi's. They're cheap over there. And but on Friday, Loretta tells HansDieter, like, look, we're going for a blowout on Friday. You've been here a week. We're going to go for a really nice lunch. Order whatever you want. It's just going to be a big blowout. Company will pay for it. Forget about it. So they sit down, and the waiter comes up to HansDieter, and he says, well, I'm going to order a piece of fish. It's white fish, so I'm going to go with a Riesling. It's from the Mosel, after all, right? And he orders a Riesling. Well, let's say he's sitting across from a table from a guy, and this guy doesn't like to drink. This actually does happen in Kentucky. We have dry counties in Kentucky where you can't buy alcohol. And it may even happen at a place at a bourbon company. Let's say this person, maybe they have a drink now and again, but not at 12 p.m. on my birthday. Goodness. And he makes a stink face. So he's not telling HansDieter this, but he's actually a little bit offended. Well, let's say the waiter gets around to stink face, right? Stink face. Then he orders a big piece of, say, I don't know, ribeye, entrecote, as it's called on this side of the Atlantic. He orders ribeye, and then he orders a glass of water. And HansDieter's just like, dude, what the hell are you doing ordering a glass of water with a nice steak? You got to have a nice red wine with that. And so HansDieter kind of makes a stink face. And he's like, what am I doing with this barbarian? So now we have these two misunderstandings for very different reasons. And in this case, we see HansDieter is actually kind of the more laid back, liberal one, right? Well, it doesn't stop there, of course. Because then things go around the table, and you notice HansDieter does that stink face is eating just with a fork, because we, as sophisticated as we like to try to be in Kentucky, usually don't use the knife as well. So he's scooting his peas, his Erbsen, into his steak to get them onto his fork. On the other side of the table, HansDieter, he has his whitefish, he also has peas, and he's elegantly placing them on his fork with his knife. What a barbarian. And HansDieter's like, what a fancy boy. And so we have these other times where we're not really understanding one another completely. There are, of course, more than that. Who pays at lunch? I have never worked in the south of Europe, but, if you work in Italy or Spain, you're going to eat lunch later in the day. So other, places where we may misunderstand one another. The next two, I think I'm running a little hot on time here, so I'll go quickly. Negotiation. So, HansDieter, before he came, he had to negotiate his contract. As we already pointed out, or as Maren already pointed out, his contract, it's going to be one where she is going to not need to say everything. She's going to be very subtle, because she lives in a high context culture where people don't say everything that they mean. Yet he's going to be very direct, and they may misunderstand each other then. And then later, HansDieter, he works in business development for this bourbon company. When he goes out and he meets his new partners, he needs to understand that he's in a very high context country now, where he can't be very direct, where he actually may put someone off. So we see that it affects not only getting the job, the negotiation there, but also negotiation later in work. Finally, business meeting. I think we've all been there, but who talks first? Are remotees there? Takes notes? Who sits where? There are lots of times in business meetings where very simple things can be very confusing. And again, for someone like HansDieter, this may be something where he's not quite used to being in such a high context culture and with people like that. And, you know, again, just to throw out a couple other ones, he's now on a first name basis for everyone. Who introduces new ideas to the table? Is this something where you have to go in a hierarchical structure or not? And so we see that there are lots of different places where things can get screwed up. But I've just presented to you a number of problems in this story about HansDieter and Loretta. And now I'm going to hand it over to Maren to get around to the solutions, which I am frightfully unable to deliver to you. Thank you.
So just to manage expectations, I won't have the right solution for everyone, but I can tell you how we actually deal with it. So this is a nice picture from our last year Christmas event where we went kart driving. I actually have chosen this picture because what is the right way to deal with differences? Is it the right way to just hire people that are from the same cultural background? Is that actually working? I mean, I have explained to you why we don't do it that way, but how can you actually deal with it? So let me give you some background about us. I mean, most of you know us, I hope. So we are 27 nationalities in a startup with around 90 employees. We have how many different cultures? 100. We all come from different countries, regions, families, have seen other companies. So a lot of different cultures. So we are an open source company. That means we have a product that is open source. So we care about transparency. We care about sharing knowledge. We have flat hierarchies, and we really do have them. So it's not just that we say that. That doesn't mean that we decide everything democratically. But everyone has a spot on the table. Everyone can contribute and actually say what he or she thinks about things, and also suggest projects or things like that. So no one has to go through different levels of hierarchy to actually be heard. We are employee oriented. So as I said before, we listen to our employees because we think it's really important to listen to those different unique perspectives. And we're externally driven, so we put the user first. So I think that makes us flexible because this is really, really important in the branch we are moving in, and being flexible to adapt to different situations. So how is eyeo doing that? You might want to ask now. So humor is always a good thing. Always keep your humor, and if a situation is awkward, laugh about it, and I think it will be much easier to deal with it. But actually, we base a framework we're having, 3 values we're having to actually create a great and safe working environment for all of our colleagues, for all of our different cultures we're having in the company. So the first one is global. We named it like, we come to you. What does that mean? So, as I said, we want to attract and hire the best talent, no matter where we find this talent. So where you work, as I said, have a good internet connection, and it's fine. If it's on the beach, I might be a little jealous, but it's fine. So it's all about how you work the most productive. And if you prefer to work here in Cologne or in Berlin and at one of our offices, or in Malmö, we offer relocation assistance. And also to make it happen, as you see today, we have blue jeans on, so we have video conferences to be actually able to meet your colleagues you might not have physically here, but to be able to talk to each other. And we have an all-hands team meeting every week, so to make sure that we actually talk about things we're working on, to be transparent about what's going on. We're growing. We're not 15 employees anymore, but nearly 90. So it's really important to keep up that transparency. And last but not least, as you've seen, we went kart driving last year on Christmas. We have our team events. So we bring our colleagues together twice a year to actually have some fun together outside of work. The second value we have is personal, come as you want. So we adapt to different life situations of our employees. So we have trust work time. How you organize your day, it's totally up to you. Maybe your family, you bring your child to kindergarten every morning, or you pick them up, or Want to play in the afternoon? Totally fine with us. You organize your day. The only thing we expect from you is tell us when you're available and be available for meetings. You can also choose your own hardware. So if I would force Ben to work with Windows, I don't know what he would tell me.
Yeah, that's my computer. I would not be able to work. I would quit. That's it.
See, that's my daily business. So it's really about like what makes you the most productive. This is what we care about. So last but not least, diverse. Here we have it, a buzzword we try to actually not say, but it's about diversity. We embrace that. So come as you are. As Ben said, I would love to see you in a suit. I have to be honest, but
it doesn't happen. Like in a couple weeks when it gets warm, I'll be here in flip-flops and shorts and tank tops, showing all of my coworkers way more of me than they ever want to see. But I'm allowed to come that way. That's how I feel comfortable. So it's really nice to be able to do so.
Absolutely. So I always say, like, wear what you want, but wear something. So this is actually the rule we have here. So yeah, it's all about this. We also support like things like we are part of the Girls' Day on Thursday. We're having 8 girls here trying to engage them for technical jobs, actually. So we do definitely try to keep up with our diverse team. So I mean, I can be proud to say that we are 30% women at eyeo in a tech company. So I see some of you here today, so that's great. So that leads to be aware. Sorry, I always have to laugh about this picture.
It's okay. That's me before I started to wear clothes to work. Got the mustache, you know.
Actually, it's your. That's the other.
Yeah.
Because I see no.
That's a way better example.
We have to talk about sunscreen. So what's always important if you want to build up a company with an international environment, or you want to work in a company with an international workforce, so always be aware of differences, but stay authentic. Don't try to somehow adjust too much, like that it's not you anymore. Sometimes culture matters, sometimes it does not, because it can be that, I mean, we have many people traveling a lot. I studied abroad, maybe you studied abroad, so you somehow know about the cultural differences and you somehow can deal with them. So sometimes it just doesn't matter where someone is from, but always respect cultural differences. So the second thing is talk about it. I talked about feedback before, so it's good like to talk about things when you think that there was an awkward situation or you felt uncomfortable. Just talk to people and set clear expectations and agree on rules how you will work together, and sometimes explain those rules. Think about this high and low context cultures. Sometimes it's important to explain a little bit more about it. Be creative with conflict. Because I think debate is always positive, so as long as you deal with it. So help your colleagues to step out their cultural comfort zone. Sometimes it just needs a little switch to go out there. Last but not least, don't overdo it. Practice what you preach, but what I said, stay authentic. So think about Ben's example of Loretta and HansDieter. Think about both prepared for their first encounter. So maybe HansDieter said like, okay, no cheek kissing, so what can I do? Maybe shake hands or give a hug, yeah. And Loretta did the same. She said like, okay, she practiced cheek kissing, so she knows what's happening. That might have been an awkward situation, more awkward maybe than it has been already. So always be aware of it, but don't overdo it with like thinking about, okay, this could be awkward. This can become like weird. Just stay authentic. The best you can do. So what you always can rely on, just a short hint, you can always rely on universal emotions. So there have been a lot of studies about it, that actually these emotions have the same facial expression all over the world. Think about that sting face Ben talked about. This will be the same all over the world. So you will always be aware if someone is making a stink face. So same goes with joy. You will always be recognizing if your colleagues are happy, because a smile tells you that your colleague might be happy and enjoying work. So this is always my preferred facial expression, I have to be honest. So again, let me stress why we do it. We want to attract and hire the best talent in the world, and it works for us. I mean, we have an international workforce. We have stats to prove that. We have a high retention rate. So, I think within the 3 years I am here, 6 employees left, and most of them because they finished their studies or started a job that was actually similar to what they studied. So I think that's a good thing. And yeah, always keep in mind taste varies. So I would love to share a final story. My own experience with a former company. I'm a hugger, so personal space. If it's someone's birthday, I approach and hug for their birthday. This is what I actually did with that colleague, and well, he froze. I just got aware that maybe that wasn't the best idea. So, well, lesson learned. What did I do next year? I just approached him, shook hands, said happy birthday, all good. Surprising to me was it was my birthday half a year later. So he came and I was ready to shake hands and accept like birthday wishes. What did he do? He gave me a hug. So I think this is a very nice story about like how it can actually work if you get to know each other a little better and if you're aware of differences and respect them. So yeah, thanks a lot for your attention, and I would love to open up the round for questions now.